Thank you very much, Mr. Stringer. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, and I want to congratulate my honourable friend, the member for Gower, for securing this debate. This issue has affected thousands of our constituents, and I thank the over 1,000 of my constituents who supported both of these petitions. And of course the teachers, the other workers within the school system, and everybody that's played a part in keeping our young people safe while as they returned to school. And this has happened, Mr. Stringer, despite the government, I would argue, and despite the government failing to prepare for the summer, and despite warnings from education unions, from parents, from members of parliament across different parties. And the fiasco over the summer has demonstrated a level of incompetence that frankly beggars belief. And I hope that the Minister, with his colleagues, will make sure that lessons are learned from what happened and what went wrong. And it is not enough just to blame the institutions, Ofqual and others, and not take responsibility. Frankly, if politicians are going to blame those institutions, they ought to make sure that ministers are responsible, because ultimately it is down to ministerial responsibility what happens. And teachers, students and their families have faced nothing but anxiety all the way through to the exam period and then through the summer. The Education Secretary had his head buried in the sand, and the reactive, make-it-up-as-you-go-along approach to handling this crisis over the summer, along with others, has damaged young people's future, and it has left many wondering what's going to happen, many parents wondering what's going to happen to their children. In my constituency, where 55% of children live below the poverty line, the government, while promising that young people will be given laptops and support, many have not received the help they need. Many young people who suffer disabilities haven't had the help that they desperately need up and down the country. And that's no different in constituencies like mine. And it's really important that the Minister addresses the question about getting the help and the kit that young people need that they haven't received. And I'd be grateful if the Minister can provide some facts on how many young people still are to receive those. Because the reports are in constituencies like mine, they do not have the laptops. They're not getting the internet access they need. That would make a big difference. The findings of the FFT Education Data Lab has shown that kids from disadvantaged schools are now 22% behind those from advantaged schools, and there's a big differential in terms of the impact on ethnic minority young people. They are significantly worse off. Those who are in the SEND category, who have special needs, need much more help, and I hope the Minister will address this point as well. And many honourable friends have mentioned the issue related to schools getting results based on the results of previous years. And that is a massive problem. In my own constituency, I came across a number of cases. In one case, one student received 3 U grades, 3 unclassified grades, when his predicted grades were 2 A's and a B. That is nothing to do with him and to do with the algorithm basing those judgments, basing those results on past exam results. There is an inherent problem with that. There needs to be an inquiry on what went wrong. It is scandalous that the government chose a system that basically discriminated between private schools and state schools, minority ethnic groups, and also between social classes, ultimately. That is shocking. Nobody ever thought that could happen in this day and age, and we must learn the lessons from what went wrong and make sure that doesn't happen. And I hope that the Minister will not only give us assurances, but today demonstrate precisely how he's going to ensure this doesn't happen again. The National Foundation for Educational Research has found that while the average learning loss was 3 months for all pupils, it is 4 months for children from BAME backgrounds. Mr. Stringer, we've seen the differential impact on different groups. Poorer families have been worse off by this crisis, both economically as well as the health pandemic and its impact. We've seen the differential impact on BAME communities. We've seen the impact, as others have said, on those with disabilities, particularly children. We need the government to put in special initiatives to support those groups that have been hit very hard. That is surely something we can all agree on, whatever our analysis is of what's happened over the summer. The fact is that we need to ensure that young people are not condemned by what has happened in terms of this pandemic, that their future is protected. And what's happened this year was unavoidable. Lessons could have been learned. Action could have been taken faster. The final point I wanted to make was about test and trace. We need to make sure that that is working properly. I've got reports from schools in my constituency where whole year groups are being sent home because test and trace is not adequate enough, and that cannot be good for ensuring young people are able to get the education that they deserve and need. So the government needs to get a grip on that, otherwise it's going to get worse, and during the exam period it's going to be an even bigger problem. Mr Stringer, I'm going to conclude my remarks because I'm conscious that the front bench need to come in, but I hope that the Minister will have clear answers and be able to give assurances to our constituents to make sure that the lessons are learnt and that there is an inquiry into what went wrong, so that we've got a proper line of sight on what went wrong, and the government can be held to account properly to make sure that young people get a better outcome next year when they've got exams coming up. Thank you.